Hi there. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you're joining us from. And we have something really exciting lined up for you. But before we get on to that, let me introduce myself. My name is Abhijit Bhaduri. I'm the author of the book Dreamers and Unicorns. And I also work as a leadership coach. And I work with individuals and organizations to help them shape their social media strategy. Well, today I have a really interesting guest. And the reason why I found the gentleman really interesting is he's written a manifesto called the Co-Innovation Manifesto, which I thought was a little odd because, in this world where everybody's competing with everybody else, does co-innovation really work? And how does it work? And, when I was digging deeper into that, I found some really interesting case studies where, his company has worked with some of the largest players in the world. And we'll talk about some of them because I want to save some of the questions for the tough questions for Keith Schwartz. And without any further ado, let me just invite Keith.
Hey, morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are.
Yeah, wherever you are, as I say that, people join us from all over the world. So wherever they are. Keith, where are you joining us from today?
I am in my home office here in Chicago, Illinois, in the U.S. So it's about 8 a.m. here, and really pleased to have an opportunity to chat with you today.
So are you fully geared up with your morning cup of coffee, or are you still?
I've had one. I might need a little bit later to sort of get me to noon, but yeah, I'm feeling good.
Okay. So thank you so much for joining us. Keith, I started the conversation by saying that when I was, I came across this whole concept of co-innovation, which I'm going to, of course, ask you about. But when I read that, I was a little skeptical because when you think about this world today, which is so competitive, everybody is really competing with the others on everything. Does it really pay to, create a co-innovation strategy? And how do you do it without competing? What kind of partners will help you do that? So I just thought, why not, talk to you about it? And of course, I'm going to also talk to you about the Co-Innovation Manifesto. But before all of that, I want to, get people familiar with your company, Bounteous. How did that come about? Tell me what Bounteous does and how did you get involved in this? And, were you an employee? Did you start it? What was it like?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, I am the co-founder of the company. A little bit about my background. I'm a software engineer by training. I studied computer science, and I've been involved in consulting really since the dawn of the internet. I started my first company in the mid '90s before the commercial internet had come around. At that point in time, I was building, what were called client server systems, but our company back then built a number of very prominent digital businesses. We were known as a company that could take an idea and turn it into a fully functioning digital business. Some of our clients are still around, which is not everyone can say that in the .com era. We built brands like apartments.com and art.com. The firm grew very rapidly, and we learned so much through that process. That company was started. I started with my co-founder Phil Hollier. We sold the business, and we worked for the acquiring company for a number of years. But in 2003, the business sold, and we were able to kind of think a little bit more about our future, and we decided we wanted to go back into doing the work that we're doing. We view our work as very consultative. We're trying to work with businesses, understand their problems, and then use technology, design, marketing, and data to make a difference. And we view our mission as to help our clients compete and win. We believe all these digital technologies are there to advance businesses' competitive positioning. And it takes a firm with a broad skill set to bring all the competencies to bear that are needed to make a difference. And so that was a little bit of the genesis of why we wanted to create the company.
So, if you had to explain, the nature of your company to somebody who doesn't quite understand these complex things, what would you say your company does? I mean, in a very simple couple of words, what would you say your company does?
Well, I would say we use digital technologies to improve the competitive positioning of our clients. We have some famous case studies with customers like Domino's Pizza. That's always fun to talk about. No matter where you go in the world, people are familiar with things like the Pizza Tracker and the Pizza Builder. And we began working with them in 2005. They weren't in any online ordering. They had really just a corporate website. And we had built some technology to help them with their call center. And we were able to take an order over the browser and get it into their stores. And that sort of started their whole journey with digital transformation. So it's really using this type of technology to help customers, sell and engage, acquire customers, sell and engage more with their clients.
So when you think about the technology that goes behind, let's say, when people talk about digital transformation, one of the questions really is that, how do you know that you've gone through the transformation? Is it something that ever gets over, or is it a sort of ongoing loop? What way would you describe it? Because, as you said, Domino's Pizza started off with just this one problem of how do you take an order over the net and, into the call center, these two kind of ways into, you added it probably to the telephone ordering system. So then, is that what you would define as the beginning of transformation, or that's the complete transformation?
Yeah, I think transformation, I don't think you're ever really quite done. As you said at the outset, we live in a competitive world. So, you can invest and you can build digital experiences and you can attain a leadership position. But if you rest on your laurels and aren't continuing trying to innovate, people will catch up over time. It's one of the points that I try to make in the manifesto is that, businesses really need to aim high. They need to say, I think, we want to be category leaders. And it's important to kind of proclaim that, to kind of keep yourself honest about where you are. Because if you're really not first in your space, you're playing catch up a little bit. And, you may obtain that leadership position, but to keep it, you need to kind of continue to invest and innovate.
So is that what Domino's did? I was
they've
looking
been on it
that you did, which was called Anywhere, where spelled as WARE. Yeah, so I just found that fascinating. Tell me about how that happened.
Yeah, so a little bit of the history there. I mentioned we started with them in 2005. We helped build online ordering. It was mostly focused on the US at the time, rolled it out to about 5,000 stores. It became it became $1 billion channel for them in a very short period of time. And their board, realized like this is kind of the future of the company. So they really started investing in a digital team. And although we had done all of the development work to start with, we recognized that, this is a natural evolution of the business and we wanted to enable them to continue to do that. So over time, they established a leadership position, but I think they're a great example of not resting on their laurels. And they came up with the Anywhere strategy of being able to order through all these different channels. A lot of them are really fun. You can tweet a pizza emoji and get your pizza sent to you. And, they do things with Amazon and Alexa and a number of things along those lines. Some of them might have been negative ROI as a channel. It took a little bit to build, but it really became part of the brand. They became a fun brand. Young people love them. They become known for that worldwide.
So for a country which is so young like India is today, you look at, it's a very, very young country. So would it be fair to say that for a country like India, if a brand has to be relevant to the young people, they need to be digital? Is that a fair conclusion one should draw?
I would say for most brands, if you are interfacing obviously with consumers, and it's that's the beautiful thing about digital and the challenging thing about digital, right? There's a lot of disruptors, a lot of innovators. If you build a cool experience, it doesn't take long to build an audience. And, you see with social media today, TikTok is something didn't exist a couple of years ago. And all the younger folks, that's their preferred channel, right? So you need to continually, I think, build and innovate and connect with consumers digitally. If you do a good job, they'll be loyal to you. If you lag, I say business is a competition, and digital business is a competition in public, right? It's like running a race, and all your friends are there to see. So there's really no question of where you stand, and that's why it's so important to commit to being a category leader, because you need to be honest with yourself where you are, and continue to double down and reinvest to stay relevant, I believe.
Thanks. Sorry. For the benefit of our listeners, I just wanted to just recap and say that we are live with Keith Schwartz, the CEO of the firm Bounteous, and we are really talking to him about his manifesto, which is called the Co-Innovation Manifesto. So before we go into that, we have a question from one of our listeners. Sri Ram Devi Nanduru wants to ask this question. What impact can we build into people's lives by using innovation? That's a question for you, Keith. So he says, what is that impact that innovation will have in an average person's life?
I think it's limitless, right? If you look at all the things that exist, in the world, these are all ideas at some point that didn't exist, weren't there. That's the beautiful thing about innovation. It really never ends. So, medical advances, there's social advances, there's fun and entertainment. All of these things have been enhanced by digital. I think if you're a professional and you work in it as a career, the nice thing about innovation is you're constantly learning, right, and constantly growing. And that's what's made my job fun. I started out as a programmer, and I got to build things. And as I've gotten bigger and older, I'm now building companies, not just applications. But there's always new challenges. And that's why this field is so exciting, digital, because it's a constant chance to learn and do something different. So I would say that the impact on people's lives is honestly limitless.
What does Bounteous mean? Why did you choose that name?
That's a great question. Yeah, so our original name was called HS2 Solutions, and I had a co-founder called Phil Hollier, and I was Keith Schwartz, so HS was the HNS, and it was our second company. I talked a little bit about starting a company even before the dot-com era. But we wanted to create a more modern name for our company, and so we went through a little bit of a search, and we were looking for something that spoke to both who we are and what we do. And Bounteous is a real word. It means both charitable and giving. And we wanted that to reflect that in our culture. We want to be a very open place, and a warm place to work. We want to be very giving and free with our knowledge. And it also means abundant. And that's a lot of what we're trying to do for our customers. We're trying to create, abundance, more sales, more opportunities, and more growth. So we chose that name, and we rebranded the company in 2018. We've had a great reaction. It's a fun brand, and I'm glad we picked the name.
So I wanted to dive straight into the manifesto. What is a manifesto? Why is it different from, let's say, a playbook? I mean, why would you have called it a co-innovation playbook, or is it, it's the same thing but a different word?
Yeah, I think a manifesto is a kind of a call to action, and at times and provocative. And I felt I wrote this early in the pandemic, and I thought we were already seeing signs that companies were, doubling down and really recognizing like now is the time. We got to engage with our customers differently. Digital was obviously safe. You saw that in this industries like the restaurant industry and many, many others. So that was the thought about writing the manifesto or calling it a manifesto. The thinking with it, I love working with clients, and I've been doing this for 25 years. And the fun thing about digital businesses is they often are the core to the business. And, so you get to work with the CEO. It's strategic. You're trying to make a really big difference for clients. And I've seen customers like Domino's just have a phenomenal amount of success. And, I've had some clients over the years that, maybe didn't embrace all the principles were outlined in the manifesto. And I wanted an opportunity to share what I think is maybe the difference between people that have been successful with these transformation and innovation initiatives and some of the companies that have lagged a little bit. And I thought hard about it and boiled it down to a set of principles that I thought people might take some things away from.
So when you say one of your principles was that you need to be a category leader, but is it possible for everyone to be a category leader? Whoever gets into digital transformation, how likely is it that, the person would be a category leader? Because not everybody is going to be a multi-billion-dollar business. Some people will just be, a neighborhood store, or should we say that the neighborhood store can never go digital, so therefore it doesn't matter. Is that how you would describe it?
Well, I think category leadership, business is competitive. It's competition. And I would say, if you're going to enter a race or a game, it's, setting your sights to try to win and think about what you need to do to prepare to win. I mean, everyone wants to win. Everyone would love to be a category leader, but there's a degree of preparation and focus and tenacity and planning that's needed when you look at people that are successful in that. One of the things I brought up there is, sometimes in our consulting we'll see clients that, I don't know, maybe have an idea that they need to check some boxes, right? They're like, well, we're going to get involved in digital. We're going to build a website. We're going to enable online ordering. We're going to build an application. And that becomes the definition of success, right? It's like, okay, I need to complete these tasks and, this will be our digital transformation. But, we really believe that's kind of the start, right? You've now entered the game a little bit and you really need to be looking at trying to become a category leader. And one of the reasons is switching in digital is so easy, right? I mean, we all know you can go to a website and try to buy a product. And if you get frustrated and stuck in the checkout funnel, you're just a couple clicks away, right, from going to a competitor. So I think that's a little bit of the thinking in trying to encourage organizations, to kind of set their goals high. Not everyone will get there, of course, right? But I think as, humans, you do want to, you do want to give it your all and try to do your best. And if you kind of get in that mindset, I think companies will generally do a better job.
Your principle, another element that I resonated with a lot was about finding the best talent. And, I wrote about it in my post today, that when you look at, today we've seen the $10 billion IPO of Freshworks, and when you look at their website, they talk a lot about talent. And in some senses, I kind of found a lot of similarity between the way Bounteous thinks about talent and, how Freshworks has done it. I mean, it's really fabulous because eventually the only way that you can actually go through this transformation is by having the right talent. And digital talent is that much tougher because everybody's competing for exactly the same set. It's a small pool and everyone's competing. So in which case, how would you, what do your clients do? What have you told them to do? Or are you referring to having the best talent with Bounteous or with your client or with both? How does it work?
It's both. And I think that's really why one of the key things and insights into the co-innovation I think, short of like digitally native businesses like Google and Apple, Facebook, it's really hard for the average business, if you're in insurance or in another category, to get the very best digital talent. And so if you understand that, when you think about, okay, how am I going to digital transform? How am I going to build an experience that's, differentiated? You start to think about, well, I probably need a partner to bring in some of the talent that I'm not going to be world-class at attracting. And so, a company like Bounteous and our competitors, we get lots and lots of practice at building experiences, and that can attract talent, right? I believe talent attracts talent. People want to work and learn from others. And if you can build a little bit of mass, you build a little bit of brand around it, it just gets easier to build that. At the same time, we're not experts in every single industry, right? And our clients are generally going to know their competitors well. They're going to have insights about their customers. And really building a co-innovation partnership is, how do you leverage the best talent in both organizations? I've sometimes seen companies feel like, okay, we're going to get into this digital thing, and I'm going to build a hip new office, a wing in our office, and we're going to hire, a few people. And it can be really, really hard if you don't have that brand and you don't have that reputation. And so that's a little bit of what we're trying to coach, I think, organizations to think about. Like, can I compete for the talent? What talent can I truly have? And companies want to retain their knowledge capital. And I think that's a big thing that I see, in consulting. That's super important. I mean, when you work with a client for the second year and the third year, and you sort of know how to work together, you understand the business better, you're more valuable to them. It's super important, I think, with talent retention, both for companies internally and for when you're picking a provider, to know that you can have kind of a long-term team working with you. I think we've all seen that in our lives, right? You get better with more iterations and more practice.
And in a time when we are looking at, as we speak, there is what is called the Great Resignation. In US alone, there are 10 million open jobs, and there are people who are sort of looking at all this. So, how do you keep the talent? How do you retain talent? How do you keep them engaged? How do you make sure they stay with you long term and it's not a transactional relationship? What are some ideas you would like to share with our viewers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's a lot of things that are fundamental. I think individuals need to feel that there's growth and opportunity for where they're at, and that will continue. So providing challenging work, interesting work that's in a non-stagnant environment is super important. Culture is vitally important. We really believe in transparency and trying to empower people. I think the more you can share in an organization about what's going well and the challenges that you have, I think people respond well to that. So there needs to be like a real relationship between the company, and their team. And I think when your people understand that you're on their side, you've got their back, you'll support them, in tough times and whatnot, I think you have a better chance really of retaining talent. I think I see sometimes organizations have a little bit more of a top-down mentality, right? We have rules, we have, there's certain things that we can't do. We really believe in, I spend a lot of time inside our company talking about trying to develop understanding. I think when individuals on teams, maybe there's some degree of conflict or whatnot, trying to understand the other side and having, sometimes you need to have some challenging conversations. And, if you've built up some trust, if you've built up a little bit of emotional safety, you can go in and talk to someone and you're not going to see eye to eye 100% of the time. But when you've been able to do that over time, you can get through those things, and that can really go a long way in retaining your talent.
You started your life as a programmer, and when you are talking about all this importance of talking to people and having these conversations. Most of the times, the challenge that I sometimes the tech leaders that I've worked with, they say, technology is simple because everything is binary. Yeah, it either works or it doesn't work. With human beings, there's nothing which is binary. Everything is gray, maybe, somewhat,
Mm-hmm.
perhaps. So
Mm-hmm.
this is what is most frustrating. Do you feel the same way because you're a programmer and do you feel sometimes wish human beings would be binary? Would that be fun?
I don't know if that would be fun. I like the variety of humans. That's where it's sort of like, trying to really understand, because I think sometimes you look at how someone reacts to a situation and you think about maybe how you would do that, but often they have, other information. I think one of the great things that's prepared me, maybe to run a company at some point, being as a software engineer, was just how software teams interact. And they're very non-hierarchical, right? They're really about solving problems. And you could be young, you could be old. It doesn't matter how you look. It's really, people bring ideas to the table, and it's sort of demonstrable, right? At some point, if you've been involved in a software team, there are team members that are super productive. They get a lot done. They solve the hard problems. They're coaching and leading others. And it doesn't really matter, who you are. And that's something we've tried to bring into our culture. We try to keep our organization very flat. And I'm involved in a lot of teams in the company. And many of those teams, I'm not the expert. I'm more the student than the teacher. And I think if you have that in your mind, if you're intellectually honest, that you can learn from others, I think you can build a good culture. I think people like that, and you'll also have a better chance of retaining your talent.
Perfect. We have a question here from Priyaraj, who joins us through a Facebook group. He's asking this question: could you specify and elaborate on the skills and the domain experience of talent which you need for digital transformation in a consumer product or perhaps a services business? Are they different or are they the same? How would you describe it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I like to say that we hire in our company hundreds and hundreds of craftspeople, and there's all these different crafts that are needed to really build digital products, digital experiences. Design is a craft. There's, visual design and information architecture, user experience, copywriting. There's all a set of crafts there. Technology, there's lots and lots of crafts. There's, the architecture and development and quality assurance and lots and lots of different, languages and skills and platforms. Each are kind of their own crafts. Analytics is a craft, right? Strategy is a craft. Project management is a craft. So what we've tried to do as a company is hire people and have them aspire to be the best in their craft, but also recognize that all the work that we're doing is really in service of our customers. And the North Star is the client. The North Star is to try to make the client a category leader. And so at some point, you need to, understand your craft in that context, right? Because I think we've all heard stories, right, about sometimes, there's organizations, we hear this time to time for our clients, maybe their technology organization feels like they have to have the latest technology in everything, and they lose sight a little bit of the fact that it's expensive or they're constantly changing it, and it really needs to be there to support the business. So there are lots and lots of crafts folks that are needed. That's what makes this field exciting, is because you can also start in one area and build breadth, and you can also build a great deal of depth, depending on your career aspirations.
Thanks. One of the elements of the co-innovation manifesto talks about the importance of speed, and I also want to build it in with another element that you talked about, which is expect change, because you plan for it, and that's how you build agility. Yeah. One of the things that comes to my mind is when you are trying to sort of expect change. The road is going to turn left or right. You're not sure. Visibility is poor. You automatically slow down. So How does speed and agility sort of coexist when it's a sort of ever-changing world? How would they happen? Give me an example of that.
Yeah, so I think speed. Look, we're again in a competitive world. If you're trying to build a better product than your customers, we all know, like, if a business gets there first, you can sort of build a competitive advantage. You can build an audience. You can build, brand recognition. So as companies going through digital transformation think about it, they need to think about, okay, how am I going to accelerate my pace? And some of that's like having talent, having the right craftspeople, having them at scale, right, and trying to move forward, quickly. The other thing with the agility and expecting change, I mean, the world changes so rapidly, right? I mean, look at the last 2 years. It's been no one knew in late in 2019 what was coming in 2020, and here we are in 2021, and I don't think we have known all the events of the year. And so I see some businesses maybe try to overplan, right? They try to have a 3-year roadmap, and at some point, I believe, especially in digital, like long-term planning, there's diminishing marginal returns. It's very hard to know. 18 months is a pretty long time horizon, and that's where I think agile methodologies is so important. And that's the really unique thing about digital is you can relatively quickly build products and get them out in the world and get people testing and using them, and use the information and insights you can gain from that, and adapt your plan. And so I think businesses just have to take this as a mindset that, you're not going to design a solution from A to Z and get it right, especially one that might take, months and months to build. So speed is important, and you want to be able to iterate quickly, right? But the change part is you need to measure where you are all the time, so you can tell if your iterations are trending in the right direction, or you may need to make a bit of a pivot.
When you look at an organization, and let's say the problem you're trying to solve for is speed, how do you build up speed of decision making in the organization? So that's the client you're working with. What are 2 or 3 things that you would do? What are good areas that you would encourage them to look at when you start working? Because eventually you want to move them in that direction of building speed. So,
yeah, I think there's a couple things there. You want to empower the people that are closest to making the work. Adding layers and layers of approval and bureaucracy where people don't feel empowered. They need to report back and ask what to do next at every step of the way. That's not a recipe for speed. So you really want to empower your teams to sort of make progress. Resources are a big part of it. I mean, if you want to go faster as an organization, are you giving the teams the resources that they need to help accelerate that? That's kind of an obvious thing. I think the other thing really to sort of go faster is this sort of measurement framework. We talk a little bit about something we call digital flow, which is like, you need to instrument your digital experiences so you can learn from them over time. And there's different ways to go fast. I mean, one way to go fast is not to be going in the wrong direction. So you have to pivot and double back. So as you can add resources to teams, you can empower them, you can try to build products quickly. You need to be constantly testing them to tell that you're on the right path. I think those are 3 really simple things every organization can do to improve their speed.
And if you were to advise your clients about building agility, is that sort of a precondition to innovate? And the reason why I say that is you need to be able to try out multiple things and see what scales up and what doesn't, and people like this but not everything. And how do you sort of build that mindset in the clients? I mean, what are some things you recommend?
Yeah, I think no one can again predict the future, so I think you have to plan for it, right? I think building cycles into your product development mindset, understanding that you're going to build products and deploy them and test them and learn from them, and review where you are. Quarterly planning cycles. Goal setting is super important. Like, how will you know you're successful? I think it's really important to set those things, and you can set them in a competitive context. If you've adopted the manifesto and you believe it need to be category leader, you can compare yourself to your competitors. It can take years, right, to sort of get there, especially if you're a little bit of a laggard. But those are all important things, with measurement to sort of assess where you are and continue to go. I mean, a company like Domino's didn't get where they are by plotting out that they were going to build the pizza tracker and the pizza builder and Pizza Anywhere in a planning cycle in 2005. They sort of adapted over that, literally over, many, many years. But they constantly learned, deployed, and got incrementally better. And now they have an amazing lead over their competition.
And Domino's is a particularly good example because, they moved from, what's the code? I'm just trying to recall what Patrick Doyle, the CEO, had said, that we have moved from being a pizza company that sells stuff online to an e-commerce company that sells pizza. It was like an incredible sort of iteration of the vision. And I think, when I was asking you this whole question of what do you do to build speed and agility, I would have added one more element to what you suggested, which is, focusing on your communication cycle. Where do you communicate? How often do you communicate? Your method of communication. What kind of communication is it? Is it, so some of it is giving information. Some of it is you're encouraging people to do that. Some of it is actually building resilience. And they say, don't worry about it. It's failed, so we'll try something different. So I kind of also think that leaders underestimate how much of time goes into communication. I very often find that to be a huge gap because most people know how to plan their stuff. They know how to, the financials, they've done that. Most leaders have not looked at this entire world that you described, that, with each time you have a different platform, your communication strategy changes, and you find that your audience has moved, let's say, from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, and as now, of course, TikTok is banned in India, but in many of the places you see that that's there. So to be able to sort of fluidly move with those evolving platforms is, I think, tough. So how do you encourage your clients to be able to build those capabilities?
That's a great question, and I think it's a good call out for communication. I think there's inward. A lot of people love to take information in, and they sort of assess. And if you're analytical, like I absorb all this information, and I have I think a plan or a path forward. That's only the start of the job, right? You need to communicate that. In communication, so much gets lost in in translation. We've heard these mantras like, you need to tell someone what you're going to tell them. You need to tell them, and then you need to tell them what you told them. And we've heard things about, with brands, right? I mean, it's only on the seventh time you've seen a brand where it really kind of sticks with you. So that's super important and a great call out. I think with our clients, I think your question was a little bit about how do we adapt when the audience is moving around. I think that's where measurement and analytics and being data driven is so important. Because you can be communicating through a channel, and luckily in today's world, there's lots of ways to sort of measure digital interaction to figure out if what your audience is. Also, they're just simple things. I mean, sometimes you need to ask for people to kind of hear it back from them, right? I mean, that's sort of, you've closed the loop with the communication. Ask someone to put it in their own words and ask what they've heard back, from you is an important, I think, technique.
When you talked about, one of the elements that you speak about was go for the best talent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, your sixth principle actually talks about mastery. Now, when
Mhm.
somebody's already at their best, I mean,
Mhm.
why is mastery even in question?
Oh man, I think that's the thing I try to point out to our team all the time, that you need to stay sharp, and it is a struggle. I use an example. There's an American football player, Tom Brady, and he is a quarterback. He's won 7 Super Bowls, and he just won his 7th now. And I showed our team his game right before the Super Bowl, and in the second half, he threw 3 interceptions. It looked like the team barely won, and he had a tough game. And I'm like, here's the guy who's the highest at his craft. If you had to say who is the best at their craft, he would be in a short list of humans, and it's still a struggle, right? So, practice and repetition, and I think that gets into this a little bit in the co-innovation manifesto of like why I believe a lot of organizations need partners that do this all the time. We have people on our team that have, I'll take a mundane thing of like deploying a website to servers. They do this all the time, right? They have done it so many times, they can do it skillfully, and so your website is always up. They know the technique to do that. If the very first time you do that, you haven't mastered that. You're not going to be able to be good at that. So not only do you want to have talent that has the skill and ability to do it, like most people in the NFL or in a professional sports team have a high degree of skill, but you just need to continually hone that. And practice makes perfect. Repetition does matter. As humans, we can learn and get even better and better at our craft with more practice. So that's a
And
little bit of the thought behind mastery.
when you look at professional sports, the other thing that I always am intrigued by, and I say this to a number of my clients, that when you look at the best in any sport, I mean, from a Federer to, you talk about Tom Brady, and there are many others. I mean, cricket has its own set of superheroes and all that. It's without exception, each one of them has a coach. Yeah. They'll work with them, and they'll be improving their craft, and the coach
Mhm.
will sort of really go back and sort of analyze the game, talk to them
Mhm.
about improving this
Mhm.
entire thing. On the other hand, when you look at businesses, in business, it's almost, very rarely do you find people who will voluntarily seek out a coach or a mentor.
Mhm.
And I think it's such a miss, because your game could go up dramatically, when you're doing that.
Mhm.
Why do people hesitate to do this? Do we have different norms for success in business, or why has it? In most other fields, you would
Mhm.
notice
Yeah,
that people do
absolutely.
have, a master craftsman would happily guide the
Mhm.
apprentice, or even the
Mhm.
ones who are slightly less
Mhm.
experienced.
Mhm.
Music has the same thing. You will work with one of the masters and the gurus, and they sort of do
Mhm.
this. Why not in business? What is so
I
difficult?
don't know. I mean, I do see some people take advantage of that. I've had the pleasure and opportunity to work with some fantastic executive coaches and mentors. We all have blind spots, right? We don't know how we're perceived, or maybe gaps in our communication or whatnot. So there's a huge opportunity to sort of take advantage of that and elevate our games. I use this quote with our team. And it's something along the lines of, average players want to be left alone. Um, you know, Good players want to be coached, and great players want to know the truth. And that's the difference, right? I mean, the people that really, really excel, they have thick skin. They recognize that their performance isn't always great, right? And people that lean into that and really look for feedback, and we have a saying that feedback is a gift, right? When someone's trying to tell you something, like, there's a reason they're trying to tell that for you. um, I think that is really, really profound, and there should be more coaching in the business world for sure.
What do you do to stay grounded? What is your personal methodology of doing that?
I do. I have a coach that I work with. I have a board. I also have a great leadership team here at the company, and we have a type of relationship where we can share with each other. It's not hierarchical. Ultimately, I'm charged as CEO of the company. I have to be the decider at times and have to make a tough call. So it's not purely a democracy, but you want to work with people that you respect, and and you see this in professional sports all the time, right? I mean, you see people, team members, describing, they'll be on the basketball court or the soccer field and they'll tell someone they're a little bit out of position. And sometimes it's a heated and animated conversation. But that's all about trying to improve the game and about, we all have unique insights, right? There's a lack of perspective sometimes with self that you really can improve by taking feedback from others.
When you look at we are talking so much about talent, I want to ask you a somewhat different question, which is, India is, as we said, it's a very young country, and it's the hub of an enormous amount of engineering talent. Yeah, and when you look at this talent pool in India, what is Bounteous planning to do with, to leverage a talent pool like this? What would you want to be doing? What's your dream state?
Yeah, in India, is just a deep ocean of talent in the country. You can see it here. If you look at some of the most esteemed U.S. technology companies being led by people from India, Google and Microsoft and Adobe and others, the engineering talent is unquestionable. We've grown quite a bit as a company, and we have.
How large are you now?
We're just over 1,100 people, which includes an exciting announcement. We are entering the India market. We have just today are announcing publicly we're partnering and have acquired a company called Lister Digital in Chennai, which has about 350 people. But we've seen our customers. We have global clients, and they, there's just so much need, and we've been hiring, and trying to build the talent pool in North America. We're in Mexico City and Toronto and many markets in the United States. But India was a logical place to go to even deepen that talent. And so we've been looking at this for a while. We found a fantastic company which will allow us to continue to recruit here, and build up our team. There's so much needed. I mean, digital transformation, there's so much demand today. I think everyone in the field knows that there's unprecedented growth. So having the talent, having the ability to say yes to your customers and enable things because you have the people to do it is absolutely phenomenal. And India is just such a wonderful country, like the diversity of the people. It's a little bit easier for us with English being spoken so ubiquitously. So we're super excited. We intend to do quite a bit of hiring in India, and we're going to start in Chennai, and we'll see where we are in a couple of years. I wouldn't be surprised if we're in other cities throughout the country.
And what kind of so do you anticipate? And you mentioned your partnership with Vista, and do you expect to use Lister to do to do some of the work on the global clients out of India, or is this going to be used for working with the Indian clients that you have? What's your approach going to be?
I think Lister is somewhat unique, and this was really attractive to us. 90 to 95% of their customers are US-based corporations. So that gave us a lot of confidence that they had a model that worked for global delivery, right? They've worked through the time zone issues. They are used to standards, cultural norms, and expectations maybe of U.S. companies. So that would make that a little bit easier. And they are a very successful and fast-growing company. So they're going to continue to serve those clients. Maybe we can do a little bit more for them with some presence in the U.S. But we have a lot of customers that would do more with us if we had more people. So we'll work that out from kind of the other side here. And work on a global delivery model. At some point, we'll do more work with Indian companies, as kind of the end market. And Lister's doing a little bit of that today. But the predominant driver for this is really to satisfy demand that we have from our North American customers.
And is the expectation that when you when you work with another company from a very different company culture, different country altogether. So I think one of the things I picked up is you said that because Lister already does a lot of work, bulk of their clients, majority, 90% of their clients are in US. So you kind of expect a degree of comfort in that. However, when it comes to two companies, two different cultures, I mean, your company was born in US and you sort of grown from there to other parts of the world. Here is Lister, which is born in India, gone to other parts of the world. How do you plan to sort of synchronize the culture of the place, and how do you sort of do that? What are some of the things that you're going to be specifically focused on, or careful about, or you want to keep in mind? What would you say?
I think when we select a company that we may partner with, a company like Lister, there's a couple things that are really non-negotiable. We're looking for thriving and successful companies. It's very hard to teach a performance culture if it doesn't really exist. And when you find a company like Lister that has loyal customers, retains their staff, customers that give them repeat business, is growing, is profitable, you realize like there's a core there that you can kind of work with, right? I think the other thing is really important is that the management teams have a similar vision for the future, right, and a similar set of values. And if those things are in place, you have a chance to be successful. If those things are not in place, it's M&A can be challenging, right? Because there are different cultures, even within two Indian companies or two American companies,
sure.
Right? Like people have sort of different norms. So I think we try to start there. I mean, the other thing I believe is I talked about working in software teams and the idea that it doesn't matter who is right, or who it doesn't matter who's right. It's more what is right. And I think we try to bring that approach into kind of our integrations with new companies. Sometimes we'll be the teacher, and sometimes we'll be the student, right? And we've been very, I think, excited about what we've seen with the Lister team. They're already beginning to teach us, some new ways to think about how to, integrate, work across our different domains. They have some different organizational models that are interesting to us, and we're looking at adopting. So I think you need to kind of go into it also with that mindset that both companies can learn from one another. There's certain things that are just really important, right, to certain cultures, and you need to know what those are and respect them, because we have different backgrounds and experiences, and you need to respect those things. But I think there's a lot of things that you can learn and adapt and change in working with others.
How does the role of the CEO change as the company expands from one particular country where you started on different countries? And as I look at it, in my book, I talk about dreamers where, you are really in one particular geography. You're really trying to make your mark. You're trying to find the product market fit, etc. Then you move to the unicorn phase where you really have, presence across the country. In a country like India, it's a large place to have national presence, and then potentially also start moving into other geographies, which is when you really define the category, you become the market shaper. but in between, as you drop off that list, you become one of the incumbents. And so that's the model. How does the role, when you look at the story of Bounteous, it has grown from very clearly at some point of time, everybody is a dreamer. You start small,
Mm-hmm.
and then you become a unicorn. You've sort of moved. And now, of course, you are also a unicorn in the financial sense. It's, and then you are expanding globally. How does the role of the CEO shift in that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I bring it a little bit back to what you're asking about earlier with communication, and I spend a lot more of my time working on communications than ever. I think as a CEO, you need to really help hone a vision with your team. Like, what is the vision for the company, and you need to continually repeat it to people so we all know like where we're headed, right? And it needs to be inspiring. It needs to be bold. Um, I believe in, we need to have an audacious future vision for the firm. So we're all kind of motivated and aligned that you need to share that with people. I think you need to work on the strategy. Okay, so now you got the vision, how we're going to get there. And that is also a process of, a lot of consulting with people. I talked about some of the coaches that I have, get some feedback on that, continually hone the strategy, own the strategy. At some point you have to make some calls, and as a CEO, you need to own it, right? It's your ultimately your decision, so you got to feel good about it. But then a lot of it is communication and sort of cultural modeling, right? It's a people business. I remember early in my career, as a college student, reading in a business magazine about Ford, a Ford Motor Company. And they were talking about their new CEO, and he was very, very successful. Ford had a tough time in the 70s, but in the 80s had, kind of rebounded and became the world leader in automotive sales. And they were asking him a little bit about, what made him become the CEO. And it was interesting, as a student, you thought it was his intellect or his work ethic or something. And he said, honestly, it's my ability to work with people. He goes, I've found a way that I can be successful working with anyone. And, that's kind of stuck with me, right? You have to meet people where they are and try to get the best out of them. And that's a little bit like coaching, right? On a team, you've got people with all different skills. And, some people are amazing at some things and weaker in others. And I think understanding that and trying to get the best out of everyone and meeting them where they are, that's a big role, I think, of a CEO.
What are the goals that you set for yourself personally? What do you expect to be doing, differently in 2 years, 18 months, whatever? Take your pick.
Differently. I think we're going to continue, the company's going to grow. We're just in a field that's growing. So, I think we're just sort of responding to that, trying to elevate other people. We need to make, some adaptations to our organization as we grow and we go global. So I think getting involved, with that and trying to do a quality job of that is something that's a little bit on my future roadmap. And empowering others. We have so many talented people in the company. We want to find opportunities for lots of folks to contribute. I've always believed in a flat organization. We want to empower people, down in the org. And so we're looking at ways of, training and empowerment and making sure we can communicate our culture and what works for us as we scale, as we bring in new people, and as we acquire, companies in other markets such as India.
Do you have a last question? Do you have a phrase that inspires you? If so, what is that?
Great question. I have many phrases that inspire me. Look, I believe I've told my team we have a really unique opportunity in this company. We're in a field that's growing. We have capital backers that believe in us and will give us capital to help grow the firm. But what's really exciting is we get to build it, right? I mean, we get to do the hard work of architecting the future of the company, thinking about what's needed, and do that independently. And there's very few, I think, teams in the world that get that chance. So I believe in carpe diem. Let's seize the day. Let's go out and try to make it happen. So
thank you so very much, Keith. Wish you all the very best, and especially with your new venture out in India with Vista. All the very best, and thank you so much for joining us here.